Hey guys, it is Elle, and I am here to read about Ashley Loring, Heavyrunner. I've actually read about her twice. One of you, I think Janelle, was the only one that watched it before I kind of shut it off because I will tell you, I felt really weird about putting that stuff on there. I, I like to be so careful in my readings. I don't like to implicate people as guilty because who am I? I'm just a tarot card reader, right? But I read the cards and I do just tell you what the cards say. That's all I can do. In the case of Ashley Loring, Heavyrunner, I really didn't understand quite what I got until today. Because today, let's see if you could see these cards too. Today I listened to the podcast. If the name comes to me, I will let you know. I listened to a podcast about her. It was done pretty well. Something vanished. Anyhow, after listening to that, I realized, okay, what I'm seeing in these cards is not crazy. And I am not necessarily pointing fingers at people that aren't already pointed. So that made me feel a little bit better about posting those readings because I like to be careful. I like to be ethical in that regard as much as I can be. But what my reading said, and I redid this reading because I didn't like the way it came through. I didn't want to point fingers at people. I redid the reading and it again showed me the exact same thing. Make of it what you will. I will post both of them, link to them at the bottom of this one. So here's the deal. This Ashley Loring Heavyrunner was a bit of a party girl. I mean, I'm just going to call it what it is. She, people said she was into drugs. She was living in an Indian reservation, Blackfeet Nation, and she was only 20 years old, sweet girl, but spending time with people who probably did not have her best interest in mind, okay? She was spending time with like some 50-year-old guy named Sam McDonald for like 6 days. She stayed at his house and partied right before she disappeared. Then Sam says he dropped her off. Actually, he said he fell asleep in his truck, and when he woke up, she was gone. That's dicey, right? What the cards continued to say in my other readings was that Sam did give her too many drugs. Okay, I didn't understand that, but Sam, now, after listening to the podcast, I know he has a history of giving women too many drugs and them running out of his house and trying to get away from him, swimming across a lake to get away from him. Not good. So I can see that he may have done that with Ashley, and that's what I was picking up on. Ashley also had a lover whose name was Paul Vena something or other, but they called him, what did they call him? Something dog, V-Dog, I want to say. Yeah, V-Dog. Paul Valenzuela. And they called him V-Dog. And he actually was her cousin, I don't know if the first, second, third, whatever cousin, husband, who was actually a lover of Ashley's or someone she was seeing. I know it gets a little complicated, but if you listen to the podcast, and I think there's a show on Paramount about all this too, you'll kind of understand the story. There's a few players. So the thing that was kind of crazy with my reading is it kept pointing at this tea lady who was married to Paul. And I kept thinking that's the part that I was struggling with ethically, because I thought for sure, like, it's got to be one of the guys, right? One of the guys she's been involved with. I thought it can't be this guy's wife. Like, my logical mind wanted to argue with what was coming through in the tarot cards. Now that I've listened to the podcast, it very well could be this guy's wife, because she actually has a history of beating up people who have had relationships with people she's in a relationship with. She has a very violent side. She talks about actually beating up this Paul guy. So make of that what you will. Now, today, I'm going to read about T a little bit more and ask directly about her involvement, because in my other readings, I just wanted to think it had to be the guys, and T just kind of maybe cleaned up the mess. I actually saw Some cards that alluded to T may have moved the body. Interesting. In the podcast that I listened to about this situation, if you just Google Ashley Loring Heavyrunner and podcast, you will find podcasts on her. T actually had her car, no, I won't say she had her car destroyed. Her car was crushed, is the rumor, after this situation with Ashley going missing. And someone said they were fighting, that they were at a certain location fighting, T and Ashley. Okay, you with me on all that? That's a lot, I know. If you've watched the movies or listened to the podcast, you'll understand this. If you haven't, it may sound a little confusing. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the question is whether T was involved in Ashley's disappearance, which both my card readings, I did one, and then I was like, let me do this again. And they both said basically the same thing, and that was that she was. After listening to the podcast, she may have been. Okay, so let's just ask. Let's just go there. Let's ask, was T involved in Ashley Loring Heavyrunner's disappearance? And we'll see what we get here. A lot of people think she was. And I've got this first card right here. And yeah, I do believe she was, only because this is the, nightmares coming true card. And down here we've got two people fighting. It's someone's worst nightmare, right? You can't sleep at night. Worry about this fight. And that, I think, is the state of mind of T at this point because of what happened. So let's just ask what happened. Let's ask what happened with T and Ashley, because it really looks like she was involved. And this is the third tarot card reading that shows me involvement. What happened between T and Ashley? And we're going to take both of these first cards. Well, this person is trying to stand up for themselves. That really reminds me of Ashley more than anything. She was a small person, a page at that, I would say, if I was to put her in tarot. She's only 20 years old. She's a youngster. She's trying to stand up, stand up for herself and take on something that was far beyond her. But, she's trying. And I just don't think it worked out well, to be honest. You see all those clouds moving in and things not looking great. And then we've got this Four of Pentacles, and I do feel like this card has to do with these men. And I think that is what she was trying to stand up against. These men, not the greatest men. This probably is that Paul guy, which was married to T, which Ashley was, my understanding, is having a relationship with, and trying to stand up for her rights to be who she was being at that moment. All right, let's see. I mean, he just looks honestly like someone who's cheap and doesn't, he's kind of thinking of himself. Yeah, and I guess that would make sense, right? That's what I'm seeing. Somebody who's thinking of themselves. He may have been supplying her with drugs. It seems like drugs were a big theme throughout this. And he may have been that person to her too. But I also did get the Lover's card for them. So I do feel like there were feelings between those two. All right. So it looks like what happened, I've got Ashley standing up about her situation and trying to be protective of this guy and protective of herself and her relationship with him. So let me ask a little further on, okay, we know that happened. What else? What else happened between T and Ashley? Definitely this first one. I'll take that. Yeah, see? There's the Three of Swords. Did get that before. I do feel like there may have been too many drugs. I felt that before. I got this card when I asked if she overdosed. I feel like there may have been too many drugs in her system. But I also feel like this is a card of three heartbreaks, right? And I think that sums up the situation quite well for, you know, one too many people in a relationship, and that's kind of what happens when not everybody is in agreement to that. Okay, so tell me how T responded to Ashley when she had her in this situation. How did T respond to Ashley in this situation? It sounds like there was a lot of feelings that were very hurt. Tell me about T and how she responded in this situation. All right, so I feel like this is the Three of Wands. I think she was watching things. I do. I think she was watching things. You see this guy, he's not only thought about things in his mind, but now he's taking action, the Three of Wands. He's got a plan and he's taking action on it, and that's not a good situation with how T responded to Ashley. And then we've got a guy that's, giving to two, and I believe this is Paul, and he had like one too many, right? We've got this 3 element again, and one person receiving what this other believes is more than the other. Just not a good situation. I think T was watching her is what I'm getting from this. All right, so ultimately let's ask about, I'm just going to ask, was T the person that we believe Ashley is past? That's what people were saying. Maybe I should ask her current physical state. I haven't asked that, but there's been so many stories. So how about Ashley's current physical state? Is she in a body walking around breathing, or is she a beautiful angel passed on as a soul spirit? So this is the Lover's card. That's an interesting card for past or not. We know she was someone's lover. This does make me think of people, I don't know why, like being exiled, right? These Adam and Eve, and exiled from their home. Let me ask for clarification on that one. I think it definitely had to do with this lover situation. I just said we had gotten that Lover's card for Paul before. Tell me about Ashley being in a body walking around, or is she passed on? I think that card does tell us about the situation that led up to it. We keep getting pointed to a man now. We're pointing to her lover, and now we've got the King of Cups, the man who had feelings for her. So I'm going to go with that a little bit more because that's where tarot is taking me rather than alive or dead. It's taking me, look at her lover, look at the man. So let's just ask for Paul's involvement in this. Before, it did not feel like he was very involved in her actual death, if she's passed on. Tell me more about Ashley luring Heavyrunners. Who's involved in her disappearance and ultimately maybe her death. Now we've got the Queen of Pentacles, and we had the King of Cups before, so I do believe, very focused woman here, I do believe it was the woman, and that's what I kept going back to, the woman. This is like somebody going through a lot. The woman who was going through a lot, which I believe was T. I do. Okay. So let's ask, actually about her disappearance, like what happened with that. Tell me more about Ashley's disappearance and what happened with that. I understand the story leading up to it. She was involved with this man, the wife not happy, the wife jealous, the wife knows he has a lover, the husband involved with her, the queen, very focused, working through a hard time, and maybe she worked through it in a way that wasn't good. So this is rushing in. This is seeing your opportunity, the Knight of Wands, and he doesn't, he's not a real thinker, he just rushes in. And he rushes in and acts without really thinking. I always think of him as extremely impulsive. He always looks like he's just barely hanging on to his horse. So I do feel that's what happened. There was impulsive action. We'll ask one more time we'll draw a card for T and we'll draw a card for Paul. And maybe we'll draw a card for Sam, because last time it looked like Sam was kind of implicated too. So tell me about T in this situation of Ashley's disappearance. T in Ashley's disappearance. Okay, we'll take that one. And now we'll draw a card for Paul. Paul in Ashley's disappearance. Before it looked like Paul was, he obviously was doing things with Ashley that his wife wouldn't like. We'll get these two. And then we'll ask about Sam McDonald. Sam McDonald and Ashley's disappearance. What I kept getting with Sam is that he gave her way too many drugs. Sam McDonald and Ashley's disappearance. Now I've got these two for him. Okay, so let's flip. Let's see what we get. And we'll go from there. The cards are all crinkling up all over each other. Okay, this is T. T involved in Ashley's disappearance. This is the Knight of Pentacles. This is the planner, isn't it? And we did see a woman putting those plans into place, it looks like, with that Three of Wands. I do feel like she may be the one behind it, the mastermind, the planner of her disappearance. Let's ask about Paul's situation. Paul has a vehicle. I do believe he did pick her up. That's what it looks like. And this is the Nine of Pentacles, who is a very independent woman who makes her own decisions. And I think she really had Paul kind of wrapped around her finger, to be honest with you. I just feel like he was very involved with her. I don't necessarily believe he was involved in her murder, if she was murdered. Now Sam, we've got to, this is saying Sam, honestly, it's like look at it in a different perspective with the whole Sam situation. The Page of Wands is, it's like looking at it in a new way. And that's what this is saying too. Look at it in a new way with Sam. So I'm not 100% sure Sam was necessarily involved in her disappearance. I do feel like he may have done things to her that weren't good. To some degree, there's something about Sam. All right, tell us a little bit more about where Ashley can be found. I feel like T was the planner behind things. I guess I need to ask, did she act alone? Where Ashley can be found. This is family property, and this is past. You know, that reservation's big, though. That's a lot of property. But you may want to look on property that isn't too far from these folks. That's what I'm getting. That's where I'm finding that she can be found. Property that's not too far from them. Tell me more about where Ashley is. Meaning land, water, that kind of thing is what I'm looking for with this. Tell me more about where Ashley is. It's these two. This is a loss card, and we know there is loss. This is a cup card, putting someone in. It's possible he could have put her in the lake. Well, that's going back to Sam, isn't it? That's interesting that came out that way. let me ask about Ashley being put in water. Oops. The cards are flying everywhere. Ashley being put in water. Tell me about that. This is, you've got a man working. A man working. Is it by where a man works? Paul? Where does Paul work? Where did he work at that time? All right, I'm just going to ask one more final question. Maybe one more final question. I want to know if T and Sam worked on this together. Or if T did this alone. Did T do this alone? Because I kept getting pointed towards T. But there seems to be some Sam involvement here. And I just don't know about that. Did T do this alone? Well, yeah, that's what's telling me yes. This is going to be solved too. So I don't think Sam did it, but I'm so confused because there's an element of Sam in here as well. And I just don't quite understand that. Anything else you can tell us that we need to know about this situation? It's messy. I mean, it just is. Anything else we need to know about this situation with Ashley's disappearance and T's involvement? This is making choices. At one point, it looked like Ashley did not want any more of. It feels like any more drugs. Honestly, it feels like drugs. I feel like Sam gave her too many drugs. And that did have something to do with her situation, but I just don't quite understand how T's involved in it. I'm just going to ask that. How is T involved in this? Because I keep getting kicked back to Sam giving her too many drugs. Get that. And how is T involved in that? How is T involved in the situation with Sam? Oh, that's interesting. Well, this is Sam, the hermit, living off kind of alone, which that does stand for Sam. I believe that. I believe that's Sam. And then this person's juggling two people. Was Sam giving drugs or things to T as well? Is that kind of what happened? Could she have been getting drugs from him as well? At this point, who knows? Let's ask, did Sam and T know each other? Tell me about Sam and T knowing each other. Well, here's the plan, right? This person has remember we said she put her plans into place. This person has the plan. So I wonder, would this person be friending someone if somehow T was behind this? I'm just going to ask if they work together on this. It's so bizarre. Did Sam and T work together on this disappearance of Ashley? It's really bizarre, guys. I'm just going to have to move some of these cards because I have way too many of them. Did Sam and T, we've got Ashley working alone with the actual, did Sam and T know each other, work together on this disappearance? No, this is like an innocent card, so injustice. I don't know that they did work together honestly. I feel like there's going to be justice in this case. I feel like it was a single person and this person's foolish, making all kinds of mistakes. And I feel like that person is T. She sounds awfully foolish when I listen to her in the podcast. All right, I'll just ask for advice to searchers. I don't know what else to ask. There's some sort of implication of Sam, and it's something about him giving her too much drugs. But then we've got T involved. Somehow, Sam giving her too many drugs seems to have affected this situation. Advice to searchers. Look at who she was fighting with, and we know that was T, right? She was fighting with T, and then we've got this guy charging in aggressively. So look at who she was fighting with. We've heard it's T. And this rushing in, like we had with that Knight of Wands, somebody rushing in, acting without thinking. And that's what seems to have happened here. Let me just ask about, one more time, this T being, we'll pull a card for, oops. We'll pull a card for guilty or innocent in this. So a card for T being guilty in the disappearance, and I'm just going to say murder of Ashley. T being guilty. T being guilty in the disappearance, and it sounds like murder of Ashley. So I got 2 cards on that. And then we're going to ask about T being innocent in the disappearance and murder. We see this irrational action, which does sound like T, and there's the whole tie to the lover and 3 people and planning. And all right, innocent. Innocent. Tell us about her being innocent. Okay. All right, so for guilty, let's do our guilty. Well, that does make me think guilty. That's the Wheel of Fortune. Things turning and turn to someone's fate. And look where they ended up. That's what I feel. I feel like she is guilty. But let's look at innocent. Innocent, we have this Queen of Cups. I feel like she found out about communication between them online. And she also found out about the child because Ashley was pregnant. And she probably thought it was Paul's. T probably thought it was Paul's. So I don't feel like she's innocent. If anything, I feel like she was obsessive about this situation. I think T was pregnant with Paul's child too, wasn't she, or something like that? And then Ashley was pregnant. It sounds very messy. There's an obsession here. An obsession. Yeah, definitely guilty. Looks more guilty than the whole innocent thing. Innocent reminds me of what may have fueled the fire, and that is thinking this girl was pregnant with his child. Well, there you have it. We'll just ask for one more card telling us about T and Ashley. Just tell us a little bit more about T and Ashley and that whole situation. It's a real shame. Tell us more about T and Ashley and that whole situation. And that is the Emperor and the Ace of Cups. And I just feel like the Emperor was ruling the kingdom. Unfortunately, I feel like that's Paul. I feel like they both had feelings for him with that Ace of Cups. They both had feelings for the same man, which is messy. Always messy. Actually, I think Paul was the father too, to be honest with you. I'm just going to say that because the Emperor stands for father, and this card often stands for insemination to me, like the bird is putting something into the cup. I do feel like Paul is the father of Ashley's child too. Yeah. Okay, well, with that said, I think Ashley's going to be found, but I'll ask that. Will Ashley be found? I mean, for heaven's sakes. Seems pretty, unfortunately, now obvious to me what happened. Will Ashley be found? Tell us about Ashley being found. This is the Judgment card. That looks past, of course. We know that. And then this is the Ace of Pentacles. It looks like outside, outdoors, off into the wilderness. It does feel like she will be. Because the Ace of Pentacles is like a discovery. Let's see if T will be indicted on this. Will T go to or be brought charges against her for Ashley's murder? Kind of think it will happen. That's a lot of cards. Will charges be brought against T for Ashley's murder? This is just all sorts of secrets, isn't it? Secrets. I'm not sure if it will be. I sure hope she doesn't get away with it. But it kind of looks like things stay secret. Which is weird because it's kind of seems obvious when you listen to those podcasts. But it's gone this long and nothing's happened. So, hey, why would it change? Let me just say, will anyone be charged with Ashley's murder? I feel like what T did is going to remain a secret. That's not what I wanted to see. Will anyone be charged with Ashley's murder? Yes, somebody will. I feel like it's a man who may have murdered or caused problems with other people. So maybe not T. But somebody will be brought up on these charges. Well, that gets even more interesting, doesn't it? Is the person who is brought up on charges guilty? Let's read about that. The person brought up on charges, tell us about them being guilty. Tell us about the person brought up on charges being guilty. I do feel like they will be found guilty, and it will be very quickly at that. It gets even more strange. Maybe T didn't actually kill her, but there is an involvement with T, and it looked to me like the cards were pointing at her. There's a man that's brought up on charges, though. It seems like what T did remains a secret. How crazy is that, huh? Is the wrong person brought up on charges? Let's ask that. Is the wrong person brought up on charges? Tell us about, is this the wrong person being brought up on charges? Tell us about this person being brought up on charges. Okay. Maybe there's more than one person. Maybe there is. I say that because we have an element of 3 here and we have an element of 3 there. Maybe there's more than one person. And it's interesting that is the Hierophant, who is the kind of the man figure of the High Priestess. And the High Priestess, we were thinking T. Make of that what you will. Let me just ask if Paul is the one brought up on charges, because that's kind of what it looks like. Is Paul the one brought up on charges? Is Paul the one brought up on charges? There's 2 people. There's definitely more than one. A couple people. 2 or more. Maybe 3. But that looks like a yes card to me. I think Paul is one of them. Maybe Paul and T, but T remains secret. There's just this weird situation. But I'm leaning more towards Paul and T here. Not so much Mr. McDonald. Let me ask about him being brought up on charges. McDonald being brought up on charges. McDonald being brought up on charges for the disappearance of Ashley. Well, that's a possibility too, because that's the moon. And the moon is things aren't always what they seem. Reflection, a lot of anxiety, a lot of things. I just feel like this is going to be kind of a circus in the court as well, with a lot of different players, just like in the podcast. And I think people are going to be charged. I'm not 100% sure it's going to be the right person. And I don't know that all the truth will come out. Let me ask that if we're actually going to learn the real truth. Because without that secret card with T, it makes me think maybe not. Tell me about the actual truth coming out in this situation with Ashley's murder. I'm just going to call it a murder. Tell me about the truth coming out with Ashley's murder. I think there's people that are protecting each other. That's what I think. And I think there's the death card, so, you know, that's telling us what ultimately happened. But there's people protecting each other. Again, I go back to the whole overdose thing. There's just this element of she had too many drugs in her system already that was tied to Sam. Maybe with this fighting, too many drugs, that having natural. I mean, this person does look wounded too. I don't know if her and T actually were fighting in the sense of fighting physically, but this person could have been wounded, which led to their death. Also, this person could have had too many drugs in their system, which was part of why they died, whereas they may have lived otherwise. That's kind of the impression I'm getting. It's messy. It's very, very messy. Very messy. People aren't going to be brought up on charges. I just don't know that the truth is ever really going to come out. There's just people protecting other people about this whole death situation, and people don't want to tell the truth. And if you listen to the podcast, you realize, yeah, people don't want to tell the truth. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. That's probably one of the messiest situations I've read on, and I don't know that the truth is going to come out, unfortunately. But it looks like maybe multiple players, multiple situations leading up to her passing, and I don't know that the actual truth will come out 100%. All right, there you have it. Thanks. Bye.